Hey boys, I'm not really sure if you can actually see me very well, but today's the day we're going international. And in here, everything is packed. We are on our way to the first workshop outside of my home country. So let's get going and let's get driving. So as you might know, I usually do a couple of workshops per year, or at least I've done a couple once, and this time I was invited over into the Netherlands to do a couple of interesting things on a workshop over there. So I was making my way over there, and let me tell you, the trip over there was so beautiful, as you see here as well. So before we dive into sentimental stuff, let's see some footage. So here we go, this is the place where the workshop will happen, and it's just amazing. It is a workshop? Definitely. So before we can actually dive into the workshop itself, we need to educate them a little bit about what kind of hardware we use and what kind of tools we do have, as well as getting used a little bit to the actual components that are on the board. And here you do see the first thing that we are going to do in this workshop, which was taking apart a couple of components and figuring out how to place them back, how to use a heat gun. So basically the basic stuff of soldering with a heat gun, but this was really great done by the people. They listened, they did it, they followed the instructions, and they gained a lot of knowledge. And I believe that most of the people should actually take this proof of work and go out there and try to solder yourself. It is so amazing, and I was really so thankful for being there and having the opportunity to actually educate them about what it takes to solder your own Bitaxe. And if you are now interested in getting yourself a Bitaxe as well, check out in the video description down below Bitcoin Brabant, and with the code WantClue you can save 2.1% of your order, which is just amazing. Thanks for having me, and now let's dive into my presentation. So today we want to start talking about what Bitaxe brings to Bitcoin, and all of you know a little bit about Bitaxe, more or less. That's perfect. And I want to quickly start with introducing myself to you. So I'm WantClue. I am one of the developers and maintainers of the Bitaxe project, as well as a couple other projects, but more on that maybe later. I started everything with having a keen interest usually in software development, and then also with my keen interest in Bitcoin, it switched over to, all right, we need to actually provide something that's open source on the hardware and the software level. And that's the reason why I'm in this project. I study business computer science in Germany, and I do workshops like this one here, or going on presentations, being on podcasts, talking about Bitcoin, especially Bitcoin mining, because plenty of people don't know enough about it, and that makes me upset. And I do have a small YouTube channel, but this is also for educational content, so that people can not only listen to me and what this douchebag is telling you, but actually, all right, he's doing something, he's soldering, he's explaining me how to do it. And that's the important part about it. Quick about the Bitaxe device. Can you quickly give me the gamma?
Of course.
Yeah. So what I do have here with me is the latest Bitaxe that we do have. It's the Bitaxe Gamma, the 600 series. It is utilizing the latest ASIC chip, the S21 chip. It's called the BM1370, which is just a specification for the ASIC model. That's not really that important, but this little device can produce up to 1.4 terahash on 15 to 20 watts. If you do compare this to this heater or any older model, there's nothing that can beat it. So that's really perfect, especially in this small form factor. But maybe I just give it around so that you can take a look on it. The Bitaxe itself is, it is a product, but we, and I'm talking about we as a community, we are called Open Source Miners United. We are a community that is driving with the keen interest in developing open source stuff, such as this device. So the community behind it is Open Source Miners United, in short OSNU, and the Bitaxe is just one product out of many that do live in this community. The community has been founded back in March 2023, so we are rather young than an established community. And one important thing is, we are not a business, we are not an entity, we are not a foundation, we are just some idiots in the internet that have found a community on a Discord server. And we provide everything that we do develop or maintain as open source, because Bitcoin was invented back in 2009 as an open source protocol, and it ever has been as this, but mining shifted. And that's the reason why I'm here today to talk about it. I have brought a couple of pictures with me today, and let me start on the left hand side. This here is the Bitaxe, and on the back you see some lighting. This is a modification for the Bitaxe. Of course, people want to mine, but people also want something that is Wi-Fi proof. So this has some light. Every time something happens on the Bitaxe, it flashes a light. It's called BitHalo, and it's also an open source device. You just attach it to the back of your Bitaxe device, and it has been developed by IMGPIO, who is in England. Then in the middle, probably one of the first products that most people ever have seen is the Nerd Miner. The Nerd Miner is basically an educational device. It is capable of mining Bitcoin, but we will get into the software part a little bit later, because mining is not equal to mining. It differentiates on how much hash rate you have, but in theory you could always say it doesn't matter what kind of device you have. If you only have 70 hashes per second or kilo hashes, you could find a block. The potential is very low if you don't have enough hash rate. So the Nerd Miner is actually also what brought me into this whole topic, into Bitaxe and into mining in general, because of course most of us knew or know about Bitcoin and that mining is some sort of thing that exists, but if you do attend to some sort of a conference, usually you only have people that are talking about the nodes, lightning, privacy, maybe a little bit of education on how to use it in your daily basis, going out to the grocery store and buying goods, but nobody is actually talking or teaching you anything about mining. And this device is really handsome if you want to try to get into it and want to read through the code, even if you don't have any understanding, because what you can do is basically just go to the GitHub repository, which is just basically a platform in the web where you can look at code and other stuff, just copy it, put it in an AI and tell it, hey, please explain me what's happening there, which goes into this knowledge base that we're trying to build here with this community, that you do have at least the potential to understand what's going on in the background. Because sure, we could provide all of these things without giving you any insights to it, but what would you benefit from it? You would just buy it because you think it's cool. Then we are at the exact same position as we are with the Gecko Science devices. And probably some of you do know, this is not a bash specific against them, but all they do is proprietary, and we as a community do everything open source, because it is necessary, in our opinion. We do have other products here as well. This here is one of the first ever built QX. Unfortunately, I don't have it with me today. The QX is basically a shift from the Bitaxe, which does utilize only one ASIC chip, to having 4 ASIC chips on it. They are the name, or hence the name QX. It utilizes a USB port here in front there and a external power source. It's just another product that was developed on the core of the Bitaxe product. And down here, I also do have this with me. It's behind you. This is the first ever built prototype of the Bitaxe hex, and hex for the hexadecimal number. It does have 6 ASICs in it. Let's talk a little bit about, and please, as I said, if you do have any questions, feel free to ask them. We will do more stuff on the hardware and software later on. But if you don't understand anything or have any specific question, why do we do this as open source or anything else, feel free to do so. This slide here should just give you a quick glance on why it actually matters to produce stuff open source. I don't want to bash usually on companies that do provide hardware for anything in Bitcoin, but lately I'm becoming a little bit more as a radical person, because these companies do provide you with stuff that you can use for a period of time, but then out of a sudden it doesn't work any longer, or something is wrong with it. How could you fix it? How could you understand what's going on in the background? You can't. It's just impossible, because nobody's providing you
what is in there. And brains, if you're listening to this, fuck you, but the second part is here. We have companies out here that are providing you with software and hardware that are talking to their servers. And if these servers go down or they just block you because they want to, you can no longer use the devices. And that's one of the reasons why we are out here and explaining this to the people so they get what open source can do for you. It's not only there, okay, you can read the code, I'm not a software developer. Sure, that's a little bit hard and it's not easy to get into this topic. And it is really frustrating if you don't know it. But having the potential and just copying it, and maybe you have a friend or somebody else who is into software development, hey, can you quickly explain me what's going on there? It's not that hard. And that's the whole part about it, especially with hardware. Like you see the picture here, that was my first ever done workshop in Germany. It was in a city called Darmstadt. And there I had the dude who soldered this one, I believe he was 60. So I'm not trying to make here any point about the age of anybody, but I want to make a point here about it doesn't matter who you are, what your experience is, everybody can learn, and you should never stop learning. And yeah, that's foremost the part of open source and why we're choosing this, especially also with the decentralization that we're trying to achieve here. Imagine the government becomes evil and doesn't allow you to mine or use your own money as you wish. Having a miner at home, they won't take this off if everybody does have one of these devices at home. This is probably just wishful thinking, but it comes into this point of having transparency, decentralization, and also the option for you to do what you want with your devices that you have purchased with your own money. Let's talk a little bit about the evolvement of Bitaxe, because funny enough, what do you think was the first name? Oh fuck, you can read it. Okay, so the Bitaxe was never intended to be named Bitaxe. Its first name was Dayminer, as you can see over here. This is the Dayminer R1, and as you do see from the date here, this was back in 2021. So the Bitaxe has a long period of time of evolvement and development before we actually got the first working prototype, which was in January 23. So it took over 2 years to get there. And why that? I want to quickly explain this to you. So we have the Dayminer R1 over here, which is basically just a PCB, like this computer printed circuit board with a couple of pins on the left and on the right hand side, and an ASIC chip slot in the middle. Funny enough, this was not working. The other ones were also not working. This here was the first ever working one, but we will get over them. So this one here was the first prototype of actually getting in there. And the reason for this device not being named Bitaxe was the inventor or the instigator, he actually calls himself, of the project. He is Scott, he's an electrical engineer by training in the USA. And he had the idea, hey man, I just want to be out in my garden, have a solar panel somewhere and use the free energy to mine Bitcoin. It would be cool. So he looked through the web and he wasn't finding anything. The only thing that you could actually utilize were these USB miners from GeckoSigns. But guess what? Nothing of them is open source. So he was really upset about it and he started tinkering about it. And this one here utilizes an ASIC chip of the S9 miner, so a really small in terms of hash rate wise, but it was the first starting point. The reason why this one was not working is quite funny. He just measured it wrong. So I tried to show you this later on, maybe I do have an ASIC chip with me, but ASIC chips, you can't really solder them with a solder iron. There is another technique involved in it, it's called SMD soldering. Usually you use hot air or a hot plate or something like that, and you just put solder paste on these PCBs, you lay your components on it, and then you heat the whole thing up until the solder paste melts. This is completely different to the technique of using a solder iron, where you just can solder two wires together. So it's really finicky and doesn't allow you any sort of issues in your design of the board. So that's the reason why this doesn't work. So he was thinking, all right, maybe it is because it's just one ASIC chip. Bitmain is always providing these machines with multiple chips. Let's just do the same thing with 3 chips. Guess what? Doesn't work. The same one, he was utilizing newer ones, and this was actually the first device that was called the Bitaxe, and this was the Bitaxe V1. He was posting back in the days in 2022 about it on the Bitcoin forum, and only 2 other people were interested in it. Most of the people were just like, oh, it's a Gecko Science copycat, no, we don't like it, it's bullshit, it will never work, don't try it. And finally on May 22, he got a couple other people involved with him in it, which are named Johnny and a couple other one, Nebula Miner I believe as well. If you guys watching this, I love you. These are legends in this terms, because they had brought so much knowledge about Bitcoin, ASICs and design of these printed circuit boards to him that he was actually able in the next year to produce the first working prototype. So then he was starting on the second one. He was trying newer chips with the S17 chips, which were also not working. And then he thought, all right, maybe I'm doing it completely wrong here. Maybe I should try something else. You see, we had like a future improvement. Like the first one had these many pins on every side. He was trying to get to every single pin and was trying with a separate board to give them the correct voltage, the correct readings, baud rate, and so on. We will get into these technical stuffs later on. But what he was trying to do is just have this board to pin every single pin out to a pin that he could utilize with like a Raspberry Pi or anything else to connect it to a computer. So that's the reason why this one really looks that ugly. And with the other ones, he was trying to do it a little bit differently. He had more components on it that were actually doing stuff there, like resistors, other capacitors, and stuff like this to get the ASIC chip on there and have it as a sort of working device where you only need to send commands to. That was the idea. And the first one was this one, where he actually only needed a couple pins instead of all these pins that you do see here. The same approach goes with this one here, but it was also not working. So he thought, all right, we do have other components that we could utilize, such as an Arduino or an ESP32 development board, and that's the reason why this board here exists. What he was trying to do there was actually get the Bitaxe to a prototype stand where you can just plug in another board and have the software on the second board. And up here you do see a couple of these extra boards. These needed to be connected to these previous boards in order to provide the correct voltage, which was also a really issue, because if you're trying to go out there and learn something about an ASIC chip, you won't find anything. The usual stuff that you do get, if you're lucky, are these repair guides from China, and they are really, really bad, because usually they're really bad translated, and you don't understand what the heck they're trying to do there. So all this process until here was, all right, I'm just find out and fuck around, or fuck around and find out, whatever. It was really just this purpose of, all right, we need to figure this out, because somehow it's not working. And what he was doing all day long was basically just having these prototypes on the side and a miner that was functional, like an S9 or S19 or S17 on the other, and trying to measure everything, what's going on there, what's happening on this device. And we also do have other products that helped in this involvement, but I'll try to explain this later on as well. So with this version in October 22, it was sort of working. I believe he used a ESP32 development board here, which is just, you can think about it as a Raspberry Pi, a little bit smaller, less computational power that is in there. And yeah, it was sort of working, but not the way he intended it to do. And he figured it out in the end and created a board that is standalone, like this one here. Because what he really wanted to create is a board that you can just plug in somewhere, doesn't matter where it is, if it provides power to you via a solar array or something else, just plug it in and it will work. And yeah, in January 23, this was the first working one, so I was joining into this community in this Bitaxe development a couple months after that. And with the March 23, the first units became available to purchase from, I believe the first reseller was Developer Algo from Canada, I believe. He's still there, he's still selling them, and he's still producing them, most of them by hand. Like, he was doing this all day long by hand and selling it to the people. It was insane. And I received a unit really quickly from him and was trying to just grasp what's going on with it and doing it. And then I got myself a couple components and tried to do it on my own. It is really a mess and it takes a lot of time to get into it, but it is fun to not only see it on a paper, but actually try it out. So this is more or less the development of the Bitaxe. Any questions on the development side?
Why did you choose the ASIC chip and not one of the other miners? Is it the easiest to?
Okay, so that's a really good question. So why the ASIC chip of Antminer specifically?
Yeah.
Okay, so think about it this way. Bitmain is producing these chips without any protection. It's like sitting in your car without a seatbelt. Like, you can, if you have a crash, you get hurt or anything else. It's the same approach. Like, they don't have any protections on these chips, and you can do with them whatever you want. You just need to have the specific commands to start it. It's like having the correct or the wrong key to your car. And what Bitmain does is, if you are a third-party control board distributor, they give you the code. Not everything, just the starting code, and you need to do all the other stuff as well, or on your own. So Bitmain is really open on this end. If you do compare this to WantClue, Avalon, this is Canaan, I believe. What else do we have? Bitfury is no longer in the market, I believe. They provided a couple chips to Canaan and to Brains.
I think it's also scale, right? So if you want to have a cheap chip,
yeah, that's the second point.
This is a very, very important part of this. Yeah.
The only point really was with Bitmain ASIC chips, you can use them with not enough knowledge, which is a little bit tricky, because if you think about WantClue and Canaan, they do it completely different. It's like a highway. You can drive on the highway without any issues, but with WantClue and Canaan ASIC chips, they have some sort of protection. You need the right speed, you need the right communication bus, you need the right receiving bus, and these things add up. So it's basically like you need to find a really small needle in your hay. It's impossible. And that's the reason why we choose the Bitmain chips. Sure, they're not open source, but we figured out really, really much about them, and we provided technical papers and everything else on our own wiki page so that people can get what's going on there. Sure, we don't know how to produce them. Theoretically, you could reverse engineer that as well, but it's beyond our limitations, so I don't think that would work. Our biggest hope on this end is that Block, one of the companies over in the US from Jack Dorsey, I believe.
Intel chips.
Yeah, currently they're using these Intel chips, but what I'm trying to say here is Block is trying to produce ASIC chips that are open source. We're not sure if they actually want to provide the architecture or just how to use it. I believe they would just provide the how to use it, because usually if you do want to produce a chip, like a CPU, GPU, anything else, the architecture, how to produce it, how to laser engrave it in the silicon, that's not your own property. It belongs to the company who's producing it. It's really difficult. So I believe they will just provide insights into how to use them and make it really easy for everybody to manufacture your own miner. And we have high hopes into this, because with that we can wave our flags and say, now we are completely open source, which is a little bit better. I've brought you a couple more pictures, because as I said, like, Bitaxe device is not only, or the community behind it is not only the Bitaxe. We have so much more. We have like different people that are doing crazy stuff and stacking them, or using a satellite dish to connect them over satellite or radio or whatever. You can do whatever you want. We also have the different sizes of everything. We have the Nerd Eggs here, which is the combination of the Bitaxe PCB without the ESP on it, so you can attach the Nerd Miner screen to it to have it a little bit more of an appealing look to it. It doesn't add up anything in terms of hash rate, it's just for the beauty of it. That's it. But you can tinker around with it, you can do whatever you want, and this is what this community is all about, that we do this so that people can come up, have their own ideas, and produce whatever they want. I will show you later on a couple new products. I brought with me today one of our newest prototypes that falls specifically into the region of we don't want to be competitors to the big people. We want to be the one and only that you need at home because it's affordable and cheap and you don't care, which is also really a good segue to the next topic, because people usually think about Bitcoin mining, all right, I need plenty of hash rate, I need to go out there and I need to find blocks. Sure, that's the thing, but if you want to give a second thought to it, you can also say, all right, I'm just protecting the network a little bit, but we will ignore this because usually people have some sort of an interest in it. They want to have money in the end out of it, or Bitcoin at least. So these devices that we do have, they give you the potential 1 in 2.4 million per day with a Bitaxe Gamma to win the Bitcoin lottery, which is not that bad. It's way better than playing a lotto or lottery. So there is some sort of an intriguing point for people to get into it, and it's affordable. If you compare it over time with playing the lottery each week, your odds are higher and you're paying less because the device is really cheap, and it will get cheaper over time because more and more people are interested in it, so the production increases and therefore the price lowers. And this is also really an important thing about it. We don't have any companies behind us. We have a couple of people that are funding our development. So we are not a foundation, we are not a company, as I said in the beginning. We are just these people in the internet that are trying to develop and build this. And then we have other people from our community or other companies that do not belong to us that just use everything that we have provided and produce these devices. So you will never see a OSMU device unless we have one manufacturer in the US who does from time to time a special giveaway thank you thingy where he produces specific Bitaxe designs with just other logos on it, which is just tied to the community behind it. But in this term, we don't have any company that is us. We are just these dudes in the internet.
But you can see on the boards the OSMU
Logo.
branding logo,
Yeah.
and you will see also that means that there was a donation towards the community. So that's also important, I think.
Let's see, do we have one here
You
somewhere?
can see it here on the gamma also.
No, that's tied
that's
to a company.
Yeah, but I have them there. Yeah, but you can see it on the side. There's
Yeah,
OSMU.
we have a couple of standards, and I think this is really important to explain. The device itself, it's open source. Yeah, that's nice, but who cares? We care, and plenty other people care. A really important step for us to give you more of an insight of what's happening is we have standards. One standard is how do we provide these files and all our knowledge. In terms of open source, there are different license models. Like MIT Bitcoin was released under the MIT license, which basically just means do whatever you want, I don't care. Then there are other licenses, and we have the GPL v3 license, which means do whatever you want, manufacture it, sell it. As soon as you change one single thing, provide this to the community for the greater good. That's our license. We don't care what you do, but if you change anything and sell it, this license incorporates that you need to open source it. That's our belief in making it a more open source world with what we're doing here, which is sadly been violated by plenty of companies. We have seen copycats of the Bitaxe we have copycats of the Bitaxe as well we are trying to force it, because what they did is just take all our designs and our software, make it proprietary, change everything so that you can look into the code and just ship it to the people. And I don't know, I have mixed feelings about it. I've had some comments from people about it that some weird things happened in their network with these devices. I don't know, I would just say I don't trust anything that's not open source. Let's maybe take a small look into our vision, and I hope this cool AI picture is nice. I don't know. I was just typing into the AI, hey, provide me a cool picture that is showing the divergence between Bitcoin mining on an open source and a closed source manner, and it was providing me that, and I believe it's beautiful. Yeah, as I said, or as I always say, it is our mission or our vision is not only to provide you a product that you should purchase. If you don't like it, don't do it. Like, we're not forcing you to, we're not telling you this is the greatest product. And I need to state this. If you're this type of person that just wants to learn and educate yourself a little bit about it, learn more about what mining means, maybe get into the software or the hardware level, this device is totally fine. If you're looking for something that is dollar per terahash wise, don't purchase it. It is bad. And the reason for this is really simple. If you're trying to get these ASIC chips, you need to get them from a third-party manufacturer, because Bitmain is probably not selling them to us. And if they would, the prices are way too high. So what we are usually doing is, we have two options. Either you purchase one of these big miners there behind you, and you strip out the hash boards and desolder every single chip, and hopefully all of them work again after that, and then resolder them into a Bitaxe. Or what we do have is, we have a couple of contacts in China and other parts of this world that are selling as brand new chips, because they are replacement shops or replacement manufacturers. So they repair these devices, so they do have fresh new chips in stock, and sometimes they sell them, despite the fact they're not allowed to. But this drives the price of these ASIC chips up, which comes around to the total cost of this device. Which is also a really important thing about all of this. We have a website, and this is really, really important, which is called bitaxe.org. And on this, you will find all the necessary information about everything. Every other website is not us. Don't trust them. Bitaxe.org is the website where you can see the GitHub, all the manufacturers that are on the legit list, and I will get into this in just a second, as well as all the other needed information, contact and so on. If you have any bug or anything else, you can contact us over this. We also do have a second webpage, which is called Open Source Miners United, opensourceminers.com. But this is more for, all right, we are this community. The bitaxe.org website incorporates also this legit list, which is basically just a list from us provided from, all right, this is a manufacturer, or this is a manufacturer. He sent one of our core members a device, it seems to work, seems legit. Here's the price, take a look on it. But there are over 25 different manufacturers, so if you want to go out there and purchase a Bitaxe device, I highly encourage you. Maybe you have a friend who is selling them for cheap because he's building them by hand, or just take a look on these websites. We have seen so many other websites that are trying to scam you, and with this legit list, we're just trying to tell the people, all right, these are manufacturers that are really out there and really exist. And we don't take any money from them. And you said something really important earlier. Some of these manufacturers, they put a small logo on the side of the PCB. So let me show you this one here. Usually, some of these manufacturers, this is just the printed circuit board. And on the side, sometimes some manufacturers put on OSMU, which basically just means, all right, with purchasing these boards, $5 goes to our community to fund for the development, which is just nice. It doesn't add up anything. And I always encourage people to go out there and take your own opinion on everything.
Here you have it.
Yeah, just give it around so that they can take it.
Yeah, you know it, but it's here.
Yeah, correct. It's on this side. So there's just this OSMU logo on it. It just shows you, all right, this one is funding the development, which is quite good. I haven't seen any manufacturer who's putting it on there without donating any money. I'm not sure if any of these manufacturers is actually doing it, but it's a nice gimmick. And it, as I said, it doesn't add up anything. I really want to encourage everybody to go out there, just Google a little bit, because it's important to get your own opinion. Also with this legit list, you could or might think, all right, these people are biased because they have some sort of contract with these companies. We don't have any contracts with them, but sure, I can tell you whatever I want and you would still believe me or not. I encourage everybody to not believe anybody who's saying anything. Don't trust me, verify your own. In the ethos of don't trust, verify. This is the important part about it. And anonymity, or this word is a little bit hard in English, is also one factor that is important for our team and for the development of it. I've brought a couple of pictures which are just the profile pictures of a couple of developers and maintainers of our community. And this should show you a little bit about, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter where you are, when you live, what you eat, we don't care. Like, have a picture of a apple pie or anything on your profile picture. It is important that we drive forward the community and this movement, because this is some sort of a factor that I always try to say there. It's not only the product that we're trying to sell to the people, it's this educational part, and especially the part about we need to understand what's going on in the background. And now I believe I said a little bit about everything that's unimportant, just some contact informations. Now we want to dive a little bit deeper into technical stuff.